Atenção, ajeitando o peito de Pelé, pintou o adversário, vai marcar, atirou. Gol! Uma beleza de gol! Gol do Brasil!
Today is my pleasure to welcome Sylvain Laborde, scientific name Laborde. He's the first author and the mastermind behind the paper Performance Habits, a Framework Proposal. But more than that, he attended more than 10 half marathons, 5 marathons, 10 triathlons, and after a boring spring, he climbed Mount Blanc. He speaks 5 languages, he's a passionate musician, and he's a nice person. Sylvain, how are you?
Good morning, Walter. Good to see you.
Yeah, Sylvain, it's my pleasure to welcome you, mate. My first question would be, Sylvain, the high level of performance you live and you for sure associate as a product of a process and training, it can be seen in this paper. But can you tell me the motivation to write this paper? Why did you write this paper?
So my life is driven by habits, I could say. And to some extent, I think I was very curious to understand the science behind those habits.
Mm-hmm.
And as I started to have a first look, I noticed that actually we didn't know that much about performance habits. And here we are. I decided to start to have a systematic investigation of performance habits in the scientific literature.
Yes, I also checked this comment in your introduction where you said that performance is more related nowadays to CEOs, to guys related to politics and so on. But now we are talking about sport science. Do you think that this is a really special issue that is missing nowadays in our field?
I think actually many athletes, many high-level athletes, many elite athletes already have those habits, but it's still arranged in a way that everyone does what everyone thinks is good to do, but we don't have any scientific evidence, and this has not been scientifically investigated so far.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay, I want to know a little bit more about the publication process. So how do you select the other colleagues, and when you selected them, how could you sell the idea saying, hello guys, here I see a gap, we may have the expertise, let's gonna do this together. How was this process? How long did it take?
I think, so if I initiated the idea, I already talked beforehand to the people that are with me, to the colleagues that are with me on the paper, and it's kind of a wish for myself to associate them because they made myself who I am, and then I thought it was nice to display also this basically this collaboration of the paper. And there's a sentence there's a quote I really love. You're the average of the 5 closest people you hang on with. So those are not necessarily all of those on the paper, but we are very close together. And then for at least 3 of them, I can say that I can really identify to them, and they really mean a lot to me.
Ah, nice. Yeah. So you somehow can say that it's easy to write things that you like with persons that are around you, right? Yeah, I assume this is really a nice way of working. Nice. Sylvain, I want to know about the review process. So how long did it take until, let's say, you have the first draft, until you have submitted this, and how was the review process like after submitting?
So if we look at this information is written on the paper. So first of all, the paper was submitted on the 8th of April, and then finally published on the 19th of August, which we could say is still a fast process. But there were, if I remember correctly, there were 2 review rounds, and the paper, I think it's important to say that, changed a lot from the first version to the accepted version.
Ah, really?
So, and I would say thanks to the comments of the reviewers, because we had our own opinion how to write this. And then the two reviewers that we had for these papers really had, I would say, really good comments how to improve the papers.
Yes.
So that was, of course, it triggered a lot of work to integrate those comments.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, the paper benefited a lot from them. For example, when we arrived at this nice figure where we displayed the 8 performance habits,
Yes.
this was not in at the beginning, so this was kind of an implicit thing. And for us, we didn't want to showcase this, but with the reflection, in order to help other people understand what we were doing, then the figure came.
Yes, to be honest, I really like these 8 habits in a picture, because let's gonna consider you share this paper as an image. This image is the image of this paper, so it brings a lot also for someone that has he doesn't or she doesn't have a lot of scientific background to see everything in one pic. Yeah, nice. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Now I want to go a little bit further. So could you say, like in general way, that these 8 habits may work for the most part of the population? So is it something that is powerful, or the idea is just to ask, first of all, to highlight, to see, well, there is a gap, here's how you could use it, and then the idea will be to prove or not whether this framework works. So you assume that this may work?
So how did we come up with those 8 habits? We systematically researched the literature about all factors influencing human performance,
mm-hmm.
and then we looked specifically for systematic reviews and meta-analysis summarizing those factors,
mm-hmm.
and then we asked ourselves, okay, how to best summarize them.
Okay.
And what we can see, those 8 habits, is a summary of all these reviews. So it's called a mapping review, where we try to draw a map of...
I saw that. Mm-hmm.
But then, exactly whether it works for everyone, to which extent actually each of those habits plays a role in everyone's life, everyone's performance, still needs to be investigated.
Yeah. So this will be my next question. So did you get some nice feedback from colleagues or for other sports scientists saying, well, I would like to try to use this for trainers, or for athletes, for astronauts, for businessmen? How was the reaction of the society around you about to prove or not whether these habits work?
So in my applied works, specifically with athletes and musicians, I could say they love it. They love it because it provides kind of a structure.
Yes. And
even if they don't necessarily, so we try to find habits that target the 8 dimensions. We don't necessarily manage it, and also don't necessarily have the time to do it. So we focus always on what is more meaningful for the person. But they really love it because it gives this framework. And each time to say, okay, let's try to see what we can do for the eat dimension. Let's try to see what we can do for the move dimension, and so on and so on.
Yes. I was wondering because there was for me a point that I was not sure, and it was whether there is a order. So let's gonna say let's gonna consider you start the day after sleeping. So from the sleeping, then you add all the other components. Is there an order, or in fact it doesn't matter? So far you do everything that is placed there.
So if you would be really restricted in time, I would suggest to focus on the 3 pillars that neuroscience strongly recommend since decades. Those are the 3 top habits that are on the top of the figure, which are sleep, eat, and move.
Mm-hmm.
Got that? You get the basis for healthy life.
Yeah, for healthy life in general. So from this basement, then you can have improved. I got it. Okay,
Exactly.
Nice. I want to also know about a part where you wrote, in a nutshell, habits can be seen as a tool to help in transferring human behavior driven by conscious process to human behavior driven by unconscious process, therefore optimizing resources and performance. Altogether, these characteristics make habits an important mechanism through which people can self-regulate and achieve long-term goals. Sylvain, I really like this part because you said implicitly about time and about what is conscient and not. So my question for you is how, and well, better say, what's your long-term goals?
So perhaps just to clarify this sentence before everything, Walter, this really means why habits can be seen as so powerful, because you don't need to think about it.
Yes.
And then you don't need really to consciously motivate yourself about it. I will reveal one habit of mine. Every morning, first thing after waking up, I go running 1 kilometer. One would think, why? It's crazy, or one needs a huge motivation to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But even it became a habit for me, and I do everything to nudge this habit. I prepare my running shoes, I prepare my running clothes next to the door, and then it's kind of automatic. I wake up, I go running.
Nice.
I can start the day afterwards. So about long-term goals, so I would have several, but in terms of research, I definitely want to pursue this investigation of performance habits.
Yeah.
Then I think there's really a high potential to help people in their life. Don't need the goal of everyone doesn't need to be to win a gold medal at the Olympic Games, which to some extent for having a healthier life and also to perform in the domain they want to.
Yes. I fully assume that this is a thing that has to be proven in a large population amount. But I was wondering about something really special and specific. I don't know if you can answer this in the sense of being right or wrong. But since we have arrived in Mars with the NASA satellite, I was wondering whether you could imagine that those kind of habits would be also important for those private health, social and like environmental information. For example, astronauts or cosmonauts, or those who live under the Earth and have to work there in the mines and so on. Do you think that the environment as a like nature can also influence positively and negative to the performance of these specific people? Because if you go to normal society like a teacher or someone working, you may control everything. But if you are in these extreme conditions, I don't know how those apps may work. So what can you say something about this? Because it was the idea that I had in my head.
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Walter. I don't even know if science could answer it now. So of course we know that, for example, if you talk about astronauts or people working in confined environments, this reflects specific social realities, specific social consequences. And I would say that perhaps habits in this case can help to structure one's life.
Yes. Nice. Yes. So, but as our audience here is a kind of broad of people, different people, I also want to ask you, how do you think that a teacher or a coach or a young sports scientist can profit from this specific paper? So, in a better way to say, can we transfer the research results of your opinion paper to the society, and how?
I think, as you summarized, the figure of the 8 habits is a nice summary of the paper. And when I do applied work with, as I said, so athletes and musicians mostly, so I like to take the picture and to take it as a start for interventions. And it really speaks to people. And then we just like to, so after we establish the basis with sleep, eat, move, then I like to ask the person, okay, now point your finger on the next dimension you would like to work on. And then we elaborate, we establish, we create a specific intervention for the person, matching the person's needs.
Yes. Yeah.
Figure we see.
Nice. Yeah, I think this is a nice and realistic way to deal with people's need for musician or as a musician or athletes. Okay, then, Sylvain, this is my last question, and I'm really happy to make it. what kind of tip can you give for a young sports scientist? So how can she or he be have a high performance if she is starting? Let's gonna say is a sports scientist student or a master or a young PhD candidate. Which kind of tip you can give as a person in your personal experience for this population?
I think my one of the best tips I could give is to start very early to establish a structure for oneself in looking for scientific material. And when I'm talking about a structure, I'm talking about a structure, for example, to use a reference software in order to categorize all the reading that one has to do to become an expert on a topic. So, for example, a reference manager that's be using. So this has been one of really my secret to digest all the reading material that I was doing. So, and this associated to a specific note system, so that all you read, it's not only you read and you forget, but you have a specific note system. I also use a specific software for this that connects my notes together. So basically, it kind of add-on to your brain, and this helps you, scientists, the huge amount of information that you have to digest, to interpret, to synthesize, in order to produce new knowledge.
Yes, I think this is a really nice gap, because we know that nowadays it's not about the quantity of research or you can get, because you can get a lot, but how to manage to have this in one picture in your computer, or how to write a specific keyword and find the terms you want to read or you already read. It's a really nice idea. Yeah. Sylvain, I sincerely appreciate your time and I wish you all the best. Thanks for this experience and see you soon. Bye-bye.